For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Shannon de Rehove. I'm at the Helen Suzman Foundation in Parkhurst to meet with political analyst Aubrey Machiki, who's discussing the ANC leadership nominations. You state in your column that Kgalema Motlanthe is the only contender in the Mangaung battle who can mount a serious challenge against the incumbent President Jacob Zuma. Why do you say this? Is Tokyo not a serious challenge as well?
Well, let's start with Tokyo Sekgale. As I might have said in previous articles, Tokyo Sekgale has support concentrated in some parts of the Eastern Cape and very little support outside those parts of the Eastern Cape. Clearly doesn't have enough support. In fact, when the nomination process closes on the 26th of November, I think what we're going to see is that Tokyo Sekgale shall have received very few nominations. And actually what I've been predicting, that at first you are going to have a three-way race between Sekgale, the president and the deputy president, might actually not happen. Because at the moment, I do not believe Tokyo Sekgale will receive enough nominations to mount a challenge. Having said that, imagine this. You are a soccer fan. You go to the stadium to support your team. You are wearing your makarapa, your vuvuzela is ready. You're shouting the slogans of your team, and your team does not pitch. Maybe this is what's going to happen to those who support Kgalema Motlanthe, that Kgalema Motlanthe is not going to enter the race. So we still don't know, actually, whether he is going to enter the race or not. Or alternatively, what he might be doing is to make sure that he does not flout ANC rules. We'll therefore wait until the end of the nomination process at the end of November, look at the balance of support, and if the balance of support favors him, then he will enter the race and challenge the president. On the other hand, he can win the presidency of the ANC in 2017 without any opposition. In other words, he can win in 2017 unopposed if he cuts a deal with the Zuma camp and they agree to support him in 2017, in which case he wouldn't have to challenge the president in 2012. But there's a third reason. The third reason is that there's a very strong view in the alliance that the election in Mangaung must proceed on the basis of continuity. And continuity is code for the re-election of Jacob Zuma. And those who've been pushing the idea of continuity argue that if Jacob Zuma is not re-elected, whatever he started when he became president in 2009 will be interrupted. And that will cause instability in the state and in the ANC itself. So for the sake of stability, there is a very strong call for continuity. Personally, I have a question. If indeed those who are arguing continuity are going to hold sway, the question you must ask is this: the continuity of what exactly? Is it the continuity of that which is good about the ANC or that which is bad about the ANC? So the principle of continuity itself is not a guarantee that Mangaung will deliver a stable ANC beyond which lies a state that can deliver and succeed where it is failing at the moment.
What are some of the challenges facing the ANC at Mangaung? What could help prevent these challenges or solve them?
Well, the first challenge is that of unity. The question is whether there's going to be sufficient unity in Mangaung. Secondly, whether the losers, especially if the losers are those who support President Jacob Zuma, are going to accept the outcome. Thirdly, the challenge lies beyond Mangaung. Is Mangaung going to deliver a stable ANC, an ANC that can reposition the state or reposition government in such a way that the dream of a better life for South Africans does become a reality? Another challenge is whether the ANC will be able to bridge the gap between its ideals or what it stood for and what it has become. But more importantly, whether the ANC can bridge the gap between its levels of electoral support and its ability to lead society. And of course, the most important challenge will be 2014, when we celebrate 20 years of democracy, when we shall be going into another general election. The challenge for the ANC, given the fact that many who support it have become unhappy about its underperformance, is it going to face a hostile electoral environment or not? And what is it that it must do? First of all, to persuade its supporters that it can deliver after the 2014 election. Because if it does not deliver after 2014, the possibility that in 2019 and elections after that, the electoral environment is going to get much more hostile for the ANC.
It has been argued by some that a stable ANC can result only from adopting continuity and change as the guiding principle for the election. Please elaborate on this statement.
Well, I'm quite skeptical about that, because as I said, the question is the continuity of what? Is it the continuity of current levels of paralysis in the state? Is it the continuity of internal battles in the ANC? Is it the continuity of the failure by the state to arrest corruption? And how corruption is poisoning the internal environment in the ANC and the external environment in society itself. The continuity of what exactly? Because for me, the main challenge is whether the ANC after Mangaung will be equal to our domestic developmental challenges. Secondly, whether the ANC government can position South Africa as a leading nation on the continent that will succeed in shifting the continent from the periphery of the global system to the core of the global system. And whether, given the shifts we're seeing in the global system, the ANC will be able to elect a cohort of leaders who are equal to the task of making sure that South Africa becomes one amongst a group of leading nations that will work towards ensuring that the shifts result in a more equitable and more ethical global order. Only a stable ANC can do that. And my view is that it is highly unlikely that the ANC will be stable after Mangaung. But the alternative in Mangaung is a ceasefire. The delegates might take the decision to defy the expectation of chaos and battles in Mangaung. They might want to defy the expectation of a bruising battle in Mangaung. The problem with the ceasefire, though, is that a ceasefire and unity are not the same thing. Because what you might have in Mangaung is temporary unity. And temporary unity comes at a cost. The cost is that those who gather in Mangaung might reach a set of compromises that dilute the kind of agenda that the ANC needs to undertake to change the direction in which the country is going.
On the note of continuity and change, why is it that continuity would apply to leadership and change to policy issues? Why not the other way around?
Well, if the principle of continuity does apply and apply successfully in Mangaung, remember that the idea of continuity is a code for the re-election of the president. But it is also a ploy to dislodge anyone who sees himself or herself as a challenger to the throne. So it means the best that can be achieved through continuity is sameness at the level of leadership, particularly top leadership. And there is no guarantee that this sameness will deliver something different as far as the policy agenda and how it is implemented are concerned. And it is therefore my view that to the extent that some change will happen, I don't see it happening largely in the realm of leadership. But at the same time, I don't see that change happening either in the realm of policy and how policy is implemented, because I think whatever policy framework the ANC adopts in Mangaung, I don't see the ANC stepping outside the current policy paradigm. So if there is change, it will be because Kgalema Motlanthe has mounted a credible challenge to the leadership of Jacob Zuma, and he wins in Mangaung. And as things stand now, and if they don't change, even if Kgalema Motlanthe mounts a challenge, it will probably not be successful. But if it is successful, you will see change at a leadership level. And if that change happens, given how the battle is being fought and given how actually policy considerations are secondary considerations, and how to the extent that there is a policy debate, the policy debate is largely a proxy debate, it's highly unlikely that the direction the country is taking is going to change substantially or even substantively for that matter.
What other scenarios are possible at Mangaung? Let's start with the Julius Malema factor.
Well, let's talk about Julius Malema and the Youth League. In relation to this battle, I think both Julius Malema and the Youth League may be spent forces, particularly the Youth League. I think the Youth League is going to have very little influence on the outcome of this battle, because the Youth League has become too divided, and to some extent is rudderless at a leadership level. When we look at how, from outside, Julius Malema is trying to mount a challenge to the president, he's making very basic mistakes in political communication, for instance. And I believe that every time he insults the president wins more support. And so the possibility is that given the choice between the reinstatement of Julius Malema and the re-election of Jacob Zuma, even those who do not want Jacob Zuma to be given another term might want to take their chances with a second term for the president. But even if it is the opponents of the president who win this battle, it is highly unlikely that they will want Julius Malema inside the ANC.
Why do you say the president possibly wins more supporters each time Julius Malema insults him?
Let's take one insult. He says the president knows nothing, is uneducated, is stupid. The problem is that a large chunk of ANC members, for reasons that are not of their own making, are poorly educated. That kind of attack is hurtful not only to the president, but to others in the ANC who have not had the advantage of a formal education. And therefore, he alienates those who have received a poor education in the ANC when he attacks the president in terms of his level of education, and effectively is mobilizing for the president when he launches an attack on those terms. But broadly speaking, political communication is about creating positive perceptions, and it's about managing negative perceptions. I think at the moment, every time he opens his mouth is his worst enemy, because he creates negative perceptions about himself, even in the minds of those who do not want the president to be re-elected. Because I think what might happen is that even those who have developed an antipathy towards the president might ask themselves this question: what kind of ANC are we going to have if Zuma loses and Julius Malema is reinstated? And they might come to the conclusion that the ANC is going to be a more unstable place if that happens. So if anything, Kgalema Motlanthe faces three enemies. The first enemy might be himself, that his strategy of rising above factional battles as principled as it is, might actually undermine him, because it means he might launch his campaign too late. The second one is Tokyo Sekwale, who, if he does enter the race, will divide the anti-Zuma camp, maybe to the advantage of the president. And the third one, of course, is Julius Malema. And therefore, those who support Kgalema Motlanthe must decide whether what will deliver a victory in Mangaung is to align themselves to Malema or distance themselves from Malema. But all of this is mere speculation, because at the end of the day, Motlanthe might not enter the race. He looks good because he is not seen as someone who engages in factional politics. He is someone who obeys ANC decisions and rules, therefore comes across as principled. The problem is that there are times when wearing a white suit during a mud wrestling match might not deliver the desired results.
Thank you. That was political analyst Aubrey Machiki discussing the ANC leadership nominations.